I want to take some time to talk about the Chinese characters, the Hanzi, as they're called in Chinese. These are kind of neat. Part of learning Chinese is that you get to play around with these characters and impress people. So go for it. Learn them well. The Hanzi. I guess the biggest misconception about Hanzi is that they're all kind of pictograms, pictures of things, like the sun and the moon, and there are certainly these examples where it was representative of the object initially. This sun character did initially look a lot more like the sun, and the moon character looked a lot like the moon initially. Now it's kind of a little bit more abstracted, a little bit less representative, but you can still see similarities there as well. The female character looked like a woman, kind of leaning over, as I understand it, leaning over and maybe picking up a child or working in the fields, that kind of thing. So things have changed quite a bit now, and the pictures aren't quite as easily identified, but they're still there. But the misconception is that these characters, all characters are like this, but they're not. Actually, this is actually just a very small subset of Chinese characters. The biggest portion of Chinese characters actually happen to be the pictophonetic group. In our text, it's probably group number 4. Is the pictophonetic, but that doesn't really matter. The pictophonetics are just composed of a radical, and then like the female radical, for example, and then a phonetic element or a sound representative. So if I switch colors here, we can put, for example, the sound ma together with this female radical would produce something like ma with the first tone. This word now is mother. The component here, component part, is actually the horse radical, or the horse component rather, not the radical. The female element here is the radical of the character. It gives us a meaning. The phonetic element of the character here, the ma, is giving us an indication of what the sound would be. So this is the pictophonetic type of character, and this is probably representative of a good 80%, 80, 85, 90, whatever. But it's the largest portion of all characters are going to be this pictophonetic group. There are other kinds of groups. If we wanted to classify other characters, we can certainly do that. There's the self-explanatory characters, for example, like 1, 2, maybe even 3. These are self-explanatory, right? They're pretty easy to figure out. Other ones might be like above and below. These are characters that you look at them and we have this little line above the baseline. We have this little line below this line. So those are indicative of what they mean. Other types of characters might be what they're called associative compounds, where you have different elements coming together that mean different things and then produce a brand new character. We have we just talked about a little bit about the sun and the moon. If we bring those two together, we get there's the sun. We put that as a radical, and we get the moon together with that to make one character. We get the character for bright, Ming. Other ones for that, there's obviously resting next to a tree. That might be another one. But there's a lot of, not a lot, but there's quite a few of these. So that's another kind of interesting character where you have meanings of things kind of coming together, compound meanings, those kinds of things. And then finally, there's just a handful, not very many, nothing to really worry about so much, but just so you know, that there's kind of phonetic loan characters where maybe a character a long time ago sounded in a different way, that meaning is no longer relevant or no longer needed. Probably the biggest example that you will run into is the character for I, me, 我. That's useful, but it's not really going to help you remember the character that well. Just know that that's kind of where that comes from. And that's really about it. Really, when you're focusing on characters, spend time learning those radicals. There's 40 most important radicals in the book, and there's a quiz that you can go through as well. So you practice those 40 most important radicals, knowing the radical, and then the associated phonetic element with it will help you remember certain sounds and symbols as you go through Chinese. Here's one that you'll probably pick up right away. You already know that this is this is the sound element or the phonetic element for ma, but put together with this radical, this mouth radical. Now it's just ma with the neutral tone, and this is the question particle in Chinese. So there's a system here. That's kind of the takeaway. There's a system here, and there's a radical and a phonetic element. You put these different elements together in different ways, and you'll learn the characters as you go. So that's about it for now. 下课。